Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of SAP Security. In this session we will be discussing about securing users and password. In this session we will be discussing in detail how to secure the users and password in our SAP system. The first topic is securing SAP standard users. We have seen this topic already. The SAP standard user SAPstar and DDIC, which has the highest authorization, we need to secure both of this user. The parameters which we have also seen in our previous session, logon/no automatic user SAPstar. This will prevent unauthorized use of the powerful user SAPstar from our SAP system. In a perfect scenario, we will enable these parameters in the default profile. Default.pfl, as we seen, we have three different profile: default profile, startup profile and instant profile. Startup profile is only for starting. After the default profile applicable to all the application server, then we have instant profile applicable for each specific servers. So these parameters should be put into default profile so that it will be applicable to all application server. The next one is defaults profiles, SAP-all and SAP-new. SAP-all is which has all authorization which is available in SAP, and the SAP-new is the new authorization object based on the release. So this needs to be monitored and controlled. In a general scenario in productive system, in a perfect scenario, we need to ensure that nobody has SAP-all or SAP-new. Maybe in some situation scenario, some emergency users, you will have SAP-all or SAP-new, but these user needs to be monitored and controlled. So in this case, generally what companies do, or you can have a policy to control this, the highly sensitive default profiles like SAP-all and SAP-new, that you will be monitoring this profile, which are all the users assigned with this particular profile, and you can also maybe enable audit log for this profile to see what kind of transaction code these users are executing. This will enable you to have a controlled environment for this highly sensitive default profiles. Then we will come to password exemptions. If you see, you can prevent the users from choosing the password that you do not want to allow. You can prohibit these kind of passwords by entering in the table USR40. The USR40 you can maintain it using transaction code SM30. So once you maintain this values in USR40, then it will be prohibited. And the value question mark stands for single characters and star stands for sequence of combination of characters. That is same like our wildcard character also we can use. For example, if you maintain like a 123 star in the table USR40, it prohibits the password that begins with 123. Or maybe if you maintain it like a star 123 star, this prohibits the users using any combination of password which will have 123 in the middle, or in the beginning or in the end. In any combination you cannot use 123 in your password. So you put star 123 star, then it will prohibit that. Or maybe for an example, for question mark, let's say you enter it like ABC then question mark, then anything start with AB and the third letter can be anything, which will prohibit from entering. So you cannot have anything starting with AB with some another letter, or AB, ABA, ABB, ABC, something like this. We cannot use it with starting with AB. So that is the use of question mark. So using the USR40, we can prevent this kind of password exemption. So let's see in our system how can we prevent this kind of passwords. To maintain the table USR40, let's go to the transaction SM30, SM30. Then our table which we like to modify is USR40 40 USR 40. Then you select maintain. So we have a warning message saying that this table is cross client. Of course, whenever you implement any password policy, it should be cross client. So that's okay. Here we need to create the exception list. So let's create some exception list. So you click new entries, then we can select the entries. So what we will do, we will say star 1 2 3 4. So anything with 1 2 3 4 should be a problem. Then let's say something start with ABC star, also a problem. Actually we can enter quite a lot of exception list like pass and init ABCD, like this. Quite a lot of exception list we can have. Let's say SAP also can be an exception list. SAP star, something start with our star SAP star. Okay, so these are all some 3 examples we have created. Let's save this entry. So when you save this entry, you need to create a transport request. Let's say create BC USR 40 . Okay, save. Okay, save it. So we have 3 combination. Let's keep it in our notepad. Okay, now let's create a user SU01. Let's create a user security student E. Create. For example, I will put an initial password with 1 2 3 4. So what I will do, I will say right now what I am trying to type is that XCV 1 2 3 4. Okay, the 1 2 3 4 is in our exception list. Is that XCV 1 2 3 4. That's the password I am trying to type in, and say enter. Now if you see, you will get a warning message, password is in exception table. This is a warning message, this is not an error message. You can still save this password. It will still accept this password because it's an initial password. Okay, so let me change it to something else. So the point here is that even though it's an exception list, for initial password this is acceptable. It will give you a warning message, but still it will accept. Okay, I will change this password again to something else. Okay, which is not in the list. So now let's try to log in with this user. Log in. Let me go to the client 800. This is the user. I will put the initial password which we have selected. Say enter. Now what I am trying to do, I am trying to select a password which is something from our exception list. Let's say I wanted to try with 1 2 3 4. So what I will do, so I am going to type in a password SECT 1 2 3 4. Okay, SECT 1 2 3 4. Our password is SECT 1 2 3 4. Let me type in here. That will be CT 1 2 3 4. I will copy this one. Delete. It's an easy way to show. Okay, so I will paste this password. Now you can see this password is in exception table. So this is the error message you will get. So let me select something else. Instead of 1234, I will say 123A. Okay. I'll select the second password. It went through. Okay, now if you can see, this does not have 1234. Okay, now let's try the second combination. Let's try A, B, C, D, then SECT. Let's try a password like this. Let me log off from this user. Maybe I will change the password here. I set an initial password for this user again. Let me log in again with this user. Go to client 800. It's my user. Initial password. Okay, this is the password which we are going to try now. Say password in exception list. If I try something with AB SAP, let's assume this is a password. In the middle we have SAP. Let's try whether this password is being accepted or not. It says password in exception list. Instead of P, I will change it to B. It went through. So we have seen how to create an exception list for your password. Generally the company name and SAP, this kind of generic passwords are keyed into this table so that people will not use this kind of generic passwords. So that is the use of USR 40. So as we seen, USR 40 is a very important table. It is better to add all possible values that should not be used as a password based on your organization policies and requirement. The next one is logon related profile parameters. As we seen before, there are several logon related profile parameters that can be used to secure our SAP system. The parameters default to SAP values, which can be changed by our basis administrators. The following are some of the examples for these parameters. Like for example, password protection. The length and type of the characters required in the password. Then enabling and disabling user ID, which is log on more than once at a time. Then automatic timeout for inactive users. Let's say if a user is not active for more than some specific time, then you can have automatic logon. Then number of failed logons until the session ends. How many times user can try the failed logon. So these kind of security parameters we can use to secure our SAP system. As you know, using the transaction code RZ11, we can also see the detail of each parameters. So let's see the parameters in detail. The first set of parameters which we are going to see is the parameters used for password checks. So the first parameter is login/minimum password length. So let's have a look into our system. Let's go to the transaction R is at 11. Then put the parameter ID and say display. The default value for this minimum password length is 6. So right now it is 6. It can have minimum 3 till maximum 40. Again, this depends on the sensitivity of the business. Then you can define how many characters, minimum characters is required. So in our scenario, we have minimum 6 characters. We will not change this. Let's try to check in our one of our user. How does this is effective in the users when we are assigning a new password to the user? Let us use the user which we have created recently. The user is SU01. The user is student E. Okay. Let's go to change. I will change the user password to, right now I am giving 8 characters initial password. Okay, save. So initial password we gave 8 characters. Let us log in with the initial password with the 8 characters. Security student E. So I will type in the initial password which I have given, the 8 characters. Okay, now as we seen that we need to have minimum 6 characters. What I am trying to do now, I will give only 5 characters. That will be okay. We have 5 characters, BCD 34. Let me, now you can see password is not long enough. The minimum length is 6 characters. So you need to have minimum 6 characters. I added one more character. Now this is working fine. So minimum password length in our system at the moment is 6 characters. Okay. Now let's go to the next profile parameters. The password digits. This defines the minimum number of digits you required in the password. Let's say in a password it cannot be full characters. You need to have some numeric values. That's what your requirement is. Let us see the other two. Let's say for example minimum password letters. This is number of alphabets. So we are number of digits, the numbers, numeric characters and the alphabets. What is the minimum number of alphabets which requires in the password? Then we have one more called minimum password specials. That means special characters in the password. Let's see one by one what is the present value. The first one, let's go to RSet. Let's log off from this user. Let's go to the transaction /n. R is at 11. First value, number of digits. Right now it is 0. So it always better to have some kind of values here. So what we will do, we will change this parameter value. Let us also see the other two parameters. Password letters. This also 0. Then specials. This also 0. So what we can do, this we will maintain 2 characters. You need to have 2 numbers and you need to have 2 letters and you need to have 1 special character. Special characters means, let's say if you go to the documentation, It allows 0 till 40. So these are all the special characters which we can use using the special character function in the password. So as we seen digits as well as alphabets, and the digits alphabets comes as a different parameters. That is the reason this is not allowed here, which is not included. That means, so we have a special parameters for this digits as well as letters, and these are all the characters which we can use with our password. Okay. You can also see the other parameters which is affecting the same parameters. We need to see the effects of other parameters as well. Let's say for example, right now we selected 2 minim digits and 2 letters and 1 special. That altogether 5 characters we have defined here. Our minimum length of the password is 6 characters. So that we should not conflict these parameter values. So we have to always see what is going to be the actual effect based on this. So that minimum length also is an affected password parameter. So we need to consider that as well. So let us change these values. So to change the values, as you know, we need to go to RZ10. Let's go to RZ10. So the password parameters, remember, always change in the default. Let's go to extended maintenance. I will say create new. Minimum password digit. The parameter value will make it 2. Okay. Copy. Then I will create the next parameter, that is letters. Copy. The third one, the special characters. Create. We need 1. Copy. Okay. We created all 3 parameters. Now we need to save this profile and we have to restart the system. Let me restart the SAP system. We will continue after restarting the system. Okay, right now we have restarted the system. So let's check the parameter values again. RZ11. The value is 2 right now, and let's the next one for the letters. This also 2, and the special characters, which is 1. Okay. So let's take our old user SU01 security student E. This is our user. Go to logon data. I'll put an initial password. Let me put an initial password as okay. This will be my initial password. So it says password must contain at least 2 digits. Okay, right now here everything is on letters, so we need to have minimum 2 digits. So 34. Let's see now. Now it again gives me another error message, says password must contain at least 1 special character. It says you need to have 1 special character. I'll add plus here. Now it seems to be fine. Save. Now let me log in with student E user. Let me go to the client 800 and student E. Let me put the password. Okay, now it's asking for a new password. Let me try new password 34. Right now we do not have any characters. Let's see what it says. Password must contain at least one special character. So we need to have one special character. I will put star. Now if you see it accepted the password. So like this we can define the passwords number of characters as well as letters and the special characters within this password. We have seen the minimum password length and the minimum password digit, maximum password letters and minimum password special, that means special characters. Then the next parameters what we are going to see is login / minimum password differ. This parameter defines the minimum character change. Let's say if you have a password, then how many characters should be changed from the old password to the new password. This is also very important parameter. Generally people have a tendency that they will change one characters and they'll keep going ahead with the password. So we can define how many characters should be different from the old password to the new password. So let's check in our system. Let's go to the transaction RZ11. It says 1. Okay, the maximum can be 40. So the minimum password, if you see the document, with this parameter the administrator can specify how many characters in the new password must be different from the old password. And this parameter does not affect if you are creating a new user or maybe when you are resetting the password. So default value is 1, at least one character should be different from the old one, but you can increase, it can up to 40. That means based on the total length what we have defined, minimum length, then you can define the minimum length for this different password. The next parameters what we are going to see, the login password expiration time. This defines the validity period of the password. This is again a very important parameter. The validity period of the password need to be defined in each system. Okay, let's go to the system and see the parameter value at the moment. At the moment it is 0, that means the password never expires. So the minimum is 0, the maximum is 1000 days, the unit is days. So what happens is if you maintain these parameters, for example 30, so every 30 days the user will be forced to change their password. So our system at the moment, this system what we are presenting is does not have a very good example, it's 0. In our productive system you should have some values based on your security policy. Let's say for example 90 days, we maintain 90, so every 90 days the user supposed to change their password. So in the 90th day, whenever the user logs in, then they will be prompted with the message saying that okay, the password is expired, then please change the password to the new one. Then they are forced to change their password. However, the user also can change their password before the 90 days, then the effective date will be from the change date. Let's see the next parameter. Next parameter is login password change for SSO. This is for our single sign-on. So far we have not discussed this topic, single sign-on. Let's say your system have single sign-on, the SNC enabled. For example, you have for example PKI card. Using your private key cards, you are logged into the system, or any kind of single sign-on solution which you are using. In this case, you can define by this parameter whether the user should change his password or not. Meaning to say, we can control the behavior of the password requirement while you are using single sign-on. Whether you wanted to allow the user to change the password or you can ignore the password. Like this we can define it in these parameters. Let's go to our system and see the possible values, then we will understand this better. Let's go to RZ11 and this is the parameter. Say and documentation. It says with password based logon, the system check the user's password must be changed. Let's say when you are using SSO, that system can check whether do you need to really have a password. The reason is still you need a password. Let's say if in a worst case scenario your SSO or SNC is not working in a particular time, or you lost the card, or some kind of scenario you wanted to use the dialog logon, then we can still use the password. So with non-password based logon like single sign-on, which is using SNC or X509 or pass or logon ticketing, you can still use the passwords. So if you change the value to 1, for example, the input format values, if it is 0, then it will ignore the requirement for password change. 1 means it will pop up with the selection 1 or 2. That means user decides, or it can be a default password you can generate. And the second is that it will give you a dialog box where you have to, if it is 2, then it will give you a dialog box. You have to enter the old password as well as new password. You are forced to change the password and you need to remember this password. And 3 is deactivation of password. There is no pop-up, it will automatically ignore these passwords. So this also, when you are using SSO, then you can define it. Otherwise, if you are not using a SSO, then we can ignore this parameter. These are all the parameters which is related to password checking during logon. Let's see the next set of parameters. The next set of parameters used for multiple logon. We also discussed about this topic little bit before. The first parameters in this multiple logon is disable multiple GUI logon. This controls the deactivation of multiple dialog logons. As we discussed before, one user at a particular time, if they can log into 2 different terminals, then that is called multiple GUI logon. So if this parameters is set that you can allow multiple logon, then the user will be able to log into the system in different terminals. First of all, this is a security bridge. One user can log into different terminals. And the second thing is that based on your license agreement with SAP, you may not be allowed to do this multiple logon in different systems, because one user will be able to use different terminals in the same time. So let's check in our system at the moment. At the moment, this is disabled in our system. So let's see. I will copy this parameter. Go to RZ11. This is a parameter. Parameter is not known. Okay, it's not log on, it's login. Okay, login. Okay, let me change the presentation as well. This also login. Okay, if this parameter is set to value 1, then the multiple dialog logon are blocked by the system. At the moment it is 0. So at the moment in our system multiple logon is possible. Okay. However, you may think that then what happens to the RFC user? If the RFC user in general, the RFC user may request to log in more than once in our system because of the behavior of your application which you are going to call from the external system. For that, we have a different parameter, login/disable multiple RFC login. In general, this is not a problem. We will not restrict for RFC logins because based on my experience, many of the application may require more than once the RFC user log into the system to call different scenarios. So that is generally not disabled. For example, in our system right now the default value is 0. That means we allow more than once the user can log in. So what happens is, let's say I can show you. We have the student user, student E, the user which we have created, which is already logged in, which we can see in the client 800. I am going to log in with the same user once again. Client 800. This is the user ID and this is our password. Okay. Now you can see a pop-up message saying that the security student E is already logged on into client 800 with the terminal. This is the IP address and this is the terminal name, and with the date and time. Note, multiple logon to the productive system using the same user IDs are not part of a SAP license agreement. That means SAP already says that productive system you are not allowed to log on using multiple logons. If in our case this is not enabled, that's the reason we have an option saying that continue with this logon without ending any other logon in the system. If you continue with this logon without ending an existing logon to the system, this will be logged in the system. SAP reserve the rights to view this information. That means if you are using this kind of multiple logon, SAP can find out that whether you have used multiple logon or not. Okay, so we can select this and we can log on one more time. And here let's say if we say continue with this logon and end the other logon, then it will terminate the other logon and only this logon, the present logon, will be enabled. Let's say if the parameter is disabled, we set the value as 1, multiple logon is not allowed, then you will not get this option. Actually you will get only this and this option. Okay, if let's say I am going to end the other one, then the other user, other terminal, in our case we are using the same terminal, in the other terminal they will get a message saying that PRD, the system message, the user session closed by system. Okay, it will close the other terminal and log in with this one. If you select the second one, the simultaneously both the user should be able to use the SAP system. That is multiple logon. As I said, in the development and quality based on the SAP license agreement it is okay to use, but in the productive system it is not okay to use. However, in the quality as well, it is wise, it is better that we restrict this multiple logon to prevent any security issues. let's go back to our presentation. Okay, the second parameter, as we seen in the previous one, disable multiple RFC logon. This controls the deactivation of multiple RFC logons. Let's say if your system is a highly sensitive system, you don't want RFC logons also logging in from a different system, from multiple terminals, then we can enable this. Then it will allow only one logon to RFCs. So far what I have seen, again depends on your business scenario. If some of the application, what I have seen in the some of the main applications, it will use more than one logon using RFC, then we will not disable this in general scenario. Then the next login parameters is multiple logon users. This is a very interesting parameters. Sorry, again here this is login. Let me copy this also. Okay, this is a very interesting parameter, whereas these parameters allow a specific users or specific list of users can log in more than one terminal. So you may think, okay, now what is the use of this one? For example, we disable the multiple logon entirely in the system. As an administrator, you may want to log into a different system in the same time for some reason, some to check some problems or some another reason you want to log into a different system, or you have some kind of user which is used by some interface development or some kind of for some kind of interface we are using some users. You wanted to use the same user to check some activity. In that kind of scenarios, then we can specify a list of users, which is a list of exemption users. We can specify in the profile parameter, then that specific users will be allowed to log in more than one terminal. So we can see in our system, okay, let's go to the transaction/n RZ 11, then display, go to the documentation. Here you can see the list of users allowed to log on multiple times. That means in multiple terminals on the same time. So this list will have, generally by default this is empty. We can have more than one users. I think list of user that are separated by comma. So then you can have user ID, but it is separated by comma. Here also we have some example. It's like is equal to user ID comma user ID without space. We have to specify. If there is any space, then it can be an incorrect entry. So there should not be any space. It should be same as the users. You can specify more than one user using this parameter. These are all the three parameters which is related to multiple logons. Let's see the next set of parameters used for incorrect logons. This also very highly used in our security environment. The first parameter is fail to session end. These parameters define number of unsuccessful logon attempts before the system ends the particular session. By default it is 3. You can set it to 1 to 99. Let's show you in the system, then you will understand this better. Let's say, let's check the parameter first. At the moment the value is 3. Okay, this number of incorrect logons allowed for a user master record until the logon procedure is terminated. That means, let's say I will use the same user, student user. check where we still logged in. Yep, let's log off this user. security student E. Okay, this is our password. I am going to enter a wrong password to this user. Okay, I put a wrong password here. I'm trying to enter. One attempt finished. It says name or password is incorrect. Repeat the logon. And I am going to do the second attempt. I pasted the password. I finished the second attempt. It says still it is incorrect. I am going to do the third attempt. I am putting the same incorrect password and enter. If you see, it automatically closed that particular logon screen. That is the failed section end. Okay, so the section is ended. Let's say if I open it again, say go to the same client, same user. Now I put the correct password, for example. I can log in. So again, if I try wrong password 3 times in the same screen, the logon screen will goes off automatically. That is the use of this parameter, ending the logon session. Okay, the default value is 3. Okay, the next one is fail to user log. This parameter defines the number of unsuccessful logon before the system logs the user. Logs means the user log. We know what is user log. So it will log the user from logging on. The default value is 12. So let's see how does this works. Let's look at the parameter first. So still we have a okay. At the moment the value is 5. Okay, so it can have 5 times. That means every time the user enters incorrect password, the counter is raised for the user master record. That means when you log in with the incorrect password, the counter is, it will start counting. It will 1. Then the second time you try, it will be 2. Like this it will count. The maximum allowed entries, allowed tries, maximum allowed fails are 5. So when it comes to 5, it will log this user. It also says that this attempts can be logged in by security audit log, and you can control it by security audit log. So right now let's try it in our system, how many times we can log in. Okay, for our scenario we will use the same user, security student. This is our password, actual password, which is working. Let me log in and check whether it's working. Okay, it's working. I will exit. I will log in again. This time I will type a wrong password. Okay, one try. This is my second try, and this will be my third try. Based on our previous parameter, this will end the session. So third try, which is end the session based on our previous parameter configuration. So I will open it again. I will log into the system again using the same user. I will put the wrong password again. This is the 4th time. I will put the wrong password again. This is the 5th time. Now I am going to put the wrong password again the sixth time, now you can see the message is different. The password log on no longer possible. Too many failed attempts. So we tried the 5 times the wrong password. Now if you go and see the user master of this record, this user is already marked that this user tried to log in with wrong password more than 5 times. Let's use our trainer user. Go to SU01. This is our user display. If you go to logon data, you can see this user is locked. Password logon not possible. Too many incorrect attempts. So if you go to USR02 /n SU to see the USR02 table, we go to /n SE16, the table browsing, USR02, enter. Let me key in the user ID, then execute. Now if you see, the user is locked with the flag 128. Double click here. We already know what is 128. Let's select this one. If you can see, 128 means locked due to incorrect logon. Now you know what is the difference between the first parameters and the second parameters. First parameter will close the session, but it will not lock the users. Number of attempts is maximum is 3. The second parameter will lock the user if the user tries wrong password more than the number which is specified in the parameter. Okay, now let's see the third parameter, that is failed user auto unlock. Using this parameter, we can define the user which was locked because of incorrect password can be automatically unlocked on midnight. Okay, so let's say in a scenario a user tried wrong password 5 times, the user is locked. If this parameter is enabled, that particular user which is locked with the flag 128 with too many incorrect attempts will be unlocked automatically at the midnight. As you may see, this is normally a debatable parameter whether we need to enable this or not enable this. In, let's say, in development and quality system, generally we just enable this because the user maybe wanted to try a different password in the second day, then we can still do that. But in the productive system it may not be advisable to do this because this is again a security breach. As I said, this can be a debatable profile parameter whether you want to enable this or don't want to enable this. So if you enable this, what it does, it will unlock the user at midnight. Let's say it has only two values, 0 and 1. By default it will be 0. If we go to reset 11, okay, by default it is 0. If the profile parameter is set to 1, then locks that were set due to failed logon attempts only apply in the same day. That means it will unlock at the midnight. So that is this parameter. Okay, the next set of parameter what we are going to see, the parameter used to turn off the password logon. If you are using single sign-on, then this parameter will be used. For example, the first parameter is disable password logon. Using this parameters, you can totally disable the logon using user ID and password in the system. However, in the emergency situation, or if you wanted to have an exceptional users, then that users you can configure it in the second parameter using login password logon group, using the parameter password underscore logon group. In this group you can specify the user group, so the user under this user group will be allowed to log in using the user ID and password. So this parameter is only applicable if you are using SSO or single sign-on. Then we have some couple of other parameters. The first parameter is no automatic user SAP star, that we already know. Once we enable this, the critical user SAP star will be disabled from logging into our system. Then the second parameter what we are going to see, login system client. This parameter define the default client when you are logging into the system. For example, if you see in our system, our default client is 001. For example, let's say let's log into our system. Let's say if you see the client is 001. We have different clients like 800, 811. If you want to default that client here, then you can specify in this parameter. Yeah, let's see in our system. Go to our SAP system. Go to transaction R is set 11. This is our parameter. If you see, the default value right now is 001. That's the reason in the logon screen you have 001. If you want to default it to client 800, then you can specify in this parameter. Then the next parameter is update logon timestamp. This parameter specify the exactness of logon timestamp. As you know, whenever a user logs into our SAP system, we record the time when the user logged on. So we can specify the accuracy of this timestamp, whether it is minutes or second or in hours. Again, it depends on how accurate you wanted to calculate this. We can specify the timestamp as accurate as we want. If we can go into the system, then it will be easy to understand. Let's say go to our system, go to the transaction R is at 11. We put the parameter and update frequency accuracy of timestamp. At the moment it's in minutes. It says minute accuracy by default. You can also change it to seconds. This is the logon timestamp. The next parameter what we are going to see is control number of seconds until an inactive user is automatically logged out. This is a very important parameter. Anyway, this is not related to password. However, this is very much related to security. This is again will be a main discussion when you are discussing with customer, how long you can allow the user to keep the GUI open inactively. Let's say 60 seconds or 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Again, it depends on your company policy. So in this parameter we can define how many minutes you wanted to keep this session idle. That means ideal time of your SAP GUI for each user. Once this ideal time is finished, then the session will be time out automatically. We can show it in the system. At the moment it is 0, that means there is no timeout. You can specify the time. Here it is highly recommended you keep some time. other for security, first of all for security reason, and it also for the performance of the system, so that the number of user logged into the system without doing any actual task can be reduced. You also know there may be a lot of users who will be leaving the session open as it is, so in order to reduce that kind of risk in your security reasons, you can also restrict. The units are already units are available in seconds, minutes and hours. Then you can specify based on your requirement. Then AAS audit information system menu path, we have ST01, which you already know what is the use of ST01. This is the menu path in audit information security, and the second one is use the report for information system, address questions, debug and analyze securities. Then this is the menu path like this, and you have couple of security related as well as SAPstar, which is profile parameters, as well as SAPstar profile parameters check, and ensure passwords for SIP provided users for SAPstar as DDIC, whether it has been changed or not, and logon rules, that means all logon related parameters, and USR40, which is also a very critical security measure, and other parameters and documentation. As we seen, we can directly use the transaction and go to specific parameters. Otherwise, using the audit information system, you can narrow down your search criteria or auditing criteria. With this, we are coming to the end of this session. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.